Welcome back to PhDchannel.com. I'm Rene Molina. Today we have a special guest all the way from the University of Santo Tomas, the oldest university in Asia. We'd like to welcome Associate Professor Maria Nina Calaca, or fondly called Nina. Nina, how are you?
Hi, Rene. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon from the Philippines. Greeting from the Philippines. I'm very good. Yeah, feeling great. And thank you so
Great,
much for
great.
having me here in your show.
Yes, because Nina finished her master's in development studies at the Massey University in Palmerston North. But before we ask her about her experiences, and offline, I'm so amazed by this lady, and I guess I was telling her probably we met many years ago when I visited the University of Santo Tomas when they invited us from Miriam College to grace the blessing and inauguration of the University Educational Technology Center, wherein Nina was the executive director. But then that was we didn't know each other yet. But Nina, a little bit of a background about yourself. Whereabouts are you from the Philippines?
Oh, yeah. I'm of course, as you have mentioned, I'm from the University of Santo Tomas, and I've been teaching for 30 years. I would say
Oh,
that's
wow.
quite, for 30
Is Santo
years.
Tomas your first and last teaching post?
No, I started for about a year actually in an apostolate school, which is
Mhm.
also a school under the University of Santo Tomas. You know,
Oh,
Rene, when you are a newly graduate, you are very idealistic and you want to teach in a school where you are needed.
oh yes.
But, UST recalled me and they told me, hey, you come back here because you are, our scholar, so you have to serve the university before you teach somewhere else.
Mhm.
So that's it, yeah. But uh, I've been many could find me in so many places.
Mhm. But you
Yeah,
were born and raised in Manila, or are you from
I'm from
the
Bulacan. I'm from
oh,
Bulacan, Rene.
whereabouts in Bulacan?
In San Rafael.
Oh, I have some good memories of San Rafael.
Really?
Yes.
That's nice to hear.
So
Yeah.
yeah, from San Rafael, Bulacan. So you studied at the University of Santo Tomas for your undergrad. So I
Yes.
understand it was mathematics and physics, was it? Your
Yeah. Yeah. I'm from the Math and Physics Department of the College of Science of the University of Santo Tomas. My
Mhm.
BS degree is education. I'm really an educator, and my major is mathematics. Yeah, but my first masteral degree is in development education. It's really using education towards development. So that's my background. And then in Massey University, I took the it's Masters of Philosophy in Development Studies. Supposedly, it's a PhD program. But
Yes, yes.
unfortunately, my documents from the university, my credentials did not arrive. My credentials from the
Oh,
University of Santo Tomas did not
oh,
arrive on time. So my program was transferred into a Master's of Philosophy program. So
yes.
that's the
Because
story because I left Philippines the day right after my defense for my masteral here in the
oh,
Philippines. Yeah.
and yeah, you are you were a scholar of the Philippine government, and you specifically chose Massey University for your masters. Why was that?
No, not really, Rene, because during that time, we're not really that many students, no? We don't have the opportunity to choose the institution.
Okay.
It's actually the Philippine government who chooses the institution for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that I'm lucky because during my time, our batch is that we were 10 that time, and I'm the only one coming from the private, no? Most really are coming from the government agencies. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
a lucky one that time.
Mm. So there were 10 of you who came to New Zealand to study for
Yes,
sent by the Philippine government, and your focus was on development studies in Massey, and you
yes.
came here at a time when it was before the millennium, and there were not many Filipinos during that time.
Yeah, you're right.
How yeah, and Massey is in Palmerston North. It's a beautiful campus. Every time I go there, it reminds me of UP Los Baños, and So how was it how was it when you were studying? Was it a major adjustment, or how was it,
Um,
Nina?
it wasn't really a major adjustment for me because when I was in my undergrad program in Manila, I'm also away from my family, no. So I'm
Oh,
I'm living on my own. So I take care of my everything from cooking to doing the laundry to everything. And for me, it's a blessing that I was in New Zealand that time because all I need to do is to study. Because here in the Philippines, you need to study and work at the same time if you want to do no pursue higher studies, di ba? So that's
yes.
the situation here. So for me, it's not really much of an adjustment. It's just that from time to time, of course, we miss our family. And that's natural for us Filipinos because we belong to a very close family, that
Mm,
we need really support of the family from time to time.
mm,
So maybe the adjustment came on that particular part land, but not really much of sa studies or doing nothing.
mhm.
I
So
enjoy the weather. The
because
weather was very good.
you arrived around March, was it, or end of February?
Middle of February. I
Middle.
remember I
Oh,
had my Valentine's Day in the airplane.
oh, I see.
Yeah, so it was a nice experience. Yeah.
And so you were you flatting in were you staying in the residence hall in Massey, or you were flatting on your
Um,
own?
when we came in our place in hostel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. So we don't cook. We just go to the cafeteria. We eat
Ah,
there,
mm-hmm.
etc. So that's the usual, right? And then after some
Mm-hmm.
time, because you need to apply for flatting if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a person who wants to have my own time. Person who wants to cook for myself because I love to cook. No,
Mm-hmm.
so I applied, and luckily there were the flat. I still remember we stayed in Mojini flat number 7. Oh, see, I still remember. Yeah, and during that time there were 3 rooms, and
Mm-hmm.
there were at the start there were 3 Filipinos actually. So I still remember Alan, Ahmad, and me in the flat. Nung at first we have some one Kiwi and one Malaysian, but after some
Mm-hmm.
time they transferred then, and the other Kiwi, he has to move out of the university campus of the flat. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there were 3 Filipinos actually, and we enjoy the company of each other. So we cook a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of fresh produce, I guess, from the farms, from the
Yes.
markets. The
Yeah.
vegetables and the meat and everything, the fruits. Yeah. So
And we
the two
enjoy the
years.
flea market.
What is it, Nina? You're saying?
We enjoy the flea market,
Oh, the
Rene,
yeah. Yes, yeah. And it's
and the thrift
and,
shops.
oh yes, yeah, the op shops, the thrift shops, yes. And then well, in New Zealand there's this thing on a weekend, they call it a garage sale. So you go around the neighborhood and you see a lot of stuff that is just very affordable. So the 2 years that you stayed in Massey University, was it you didn't go home, or you just stayed the entire time during the program?
I went home in between the 2-year
Mm,
program because my respondents are in the Philippines. The
okay.
respondents actually are the former awardees also or scholars of the program. So I have
Mm-mm.
to go back and look, I have to look for them.
Mm. So, what was the focus of your studies for your masters?
That's a very interesting question, Rene. My study actually, I looked into the results and the effectiveness of the educational training program being provided to the Philippines in particular, because this is a bilateral agreement, and I would like to find out what is the impact so far of this educational training program because there are so many issues. It's
Mm-hmm.
an aid. It's an aid under the bilateral agreement.
Mm.
But the question is it really an aid for us? Because the money or the aid being given to us is spent also in New Zealand. So we were
Mm.
trained in New Zealand. But the idea there is not the money, but the idea there is that the objective actually of the program is to train
Mm-hmm.
new blood. So that's we, right? So it's human capital development. That's the idea of the whole program. So it's a good program, and there are so many findings actually. One in I would like to make it short, but if you want to ask questions, you
Sure,
can ask
sure, sure.
questions now, Rene. Actually, at the end of my research, I did not recommend additional aid for the Philippines.
Oh,
So New
okay.
Zealand was, they are a little, ano ba, na, why is it that you are not recommending for an additional aid? Usually they're
Mm,
expecting that the recommendation will be an additional aid to the Philippines.
mm,
No, I did not, because for me, the recommendation is that for the Philippines to maximize the aid so far, maximize
mm.
the potential of the aid. Do not ask for more, because aid is there is something hidden in the aid.
Oh, of
So
course, yes. Mm-hmm.
because it's an agreement, that's
Mm,
a trade off. There is a trade off always.
mm,
So
mm,
that is where my recommendation comes in, because for me hindi siya talaga na ma-maximize. We cannot
mm,
maximize because of the reason that we need to correct also some policies here in the Philippines, way back here
okay.
in our home country, because okay, we send scholars, and what is the policing or the monitoring system?
Mm.
Do all scholars go home? Results shows that 64% do not go home.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yes,
Even if you
during
signed,
that
they
time.
signed,
I
even if
just
they
don't know
signed.
now, but during that time, 64% of the scholars do not go home. They stay in New Zealand.
Mm.
Okay, because during that time it's not strict yet. No, they can stay, they can
Ah,
work there, because we were trained already. No, we were trained to be. We got to use. We're used already with the environment, with the
mm.
people, with the system. We know how to use their. No, we have the technology already. Right. We have adjusted already a lot, so we're settled already. So it's an option for us not to go back anymore, unless that is the reason why after some time, Rene, there is a strict implementation that we have to leave the country. We have to
Yes.
leave New Zealand, no, before we can go back to New Zealand. But some scholars, what they usually do is they will take a flight out of New Zealand, and after a month of 2 or 3, they will come back because
Yes.
they're established already. They have connections.
Correct.
So that was the scenario during that time.
Mm, mm,
So, but for us scholars, the group, no, the batch that during that 1995, we really made a fact. Ganun,
mm,
ano, it's a fact that we really agreed that we're going home. All of us will go home in the Philippines and will serve our country. But
mm,
even if we had that agreement, still I remember that one of us was not able to. Two of us actually did
stayed
not go
behind.
back. Yeah. So one
Oh,
stayed behind, the other one went back home, and then after a few months, he came back to New Zealand.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
but we're it's okay for us. It's okay.
Mm,
Well,
mm. Yeah, to each,
that's
to
the
each.
reality of life, no? That's the
That's correct.
reality of.
Yes, because nowadays the well, as far as I can remember, the scholars really it's strict, as you said, strict implementation. They have to go back and serve another. I think the duration of your scholarship. That's what they do. Because I had a friend, she was doing her master's in environmental management at the University of Waikato. So
Mm,
she brought her family, her
mm,
husband and her child, because she was very young, the child. But they had to go back and after they finished their, she finished her program, and there are several others. Well, it's I guess that you were saying about the human capital and things that you want to put into practice what you've learned and put it back, pay it forward in the Philippines, and the program that you were studying and you were working on, like you were telling me offline about the e-learning that New Zealand has has a very good track record when you were doing your studies, that we have a very good track record of distance education,
Distance learning. Yeah.
distance ed, and that was what the late 90s, when it was already, like, in the Philippines and in New Zealand and other parts of the world. It was already ongoing, but not as now, as massive, as intensive as now, the distance education. So you got to be at the right place and the right time to prepare you for your journey, because when you came back to USD, you got promoted and did a lot of things that were not really teaching. You were saying that was more of project management and administrative work. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Nina?
Yeah. When I came back actually from the New Zealand, no. So it's not really more of, but I would say it's on top of the teaching, of the
On
teaching
top.
work. Yeah, for us faculty, no. So it's really on top of our function as faculty. We are
Mhm,
borrowed and we are given the position as administrators, no.
mhm,
So as I have shared with Rene, so when I came back, the university actually gave me this work to set up the e-learning of the university. So
mhm,
those of you who are familiar with the e-learning system of the University of Santo Tomas, I'm one of the key persons who actually set that up for the university. And as part of that training, no, so my 25-point study in New
mhm,
Zealand on distance learning, I would say is not enough because little knowledge is very dangerous. And if you want to come up with a very big project, no, a program like because in university we have 45,000 students during that time. And if you are
wow.
setting up an e-learning for 45,000 students, so you must really be knowledgeable. And that's the time that the university allowed me to enroll in Wisconsin for another 2-year professional certificate course. So
Mhm,
while I am enrolled, I'm setting up the e-learning in the university and of course having whatever I have learned from New Zealand, because New Zealand actually taught me how to be a very good project manager. So
mhm,
I handled the project management part of the ELIP. We call it ELIP, the e-learning access program of the university. And I
mhm.
remember that the university during that time hired a professional project manager, and he is actually now in New Zealand,
Oh,
Nepomuceno. I don't know if Nel, if Mel is listening, but I don't know also if you know Mel Nepomuceno. He
I'll
was
search for
our
him.
Yeah, he was our consultant that time, project management consultant, and when he got to learn that I know many things about project management because we were taught in New Zealand, he actually approached the administrators of the university and he said, that was the vice rector actually, and he said, "Father, you don't need me, you have the best person here." She knows actually better than what I know because I am going to New Zealand to study, and here you have a person who knows project management. So I was given the work as the project manager, so I set up
Mhm,
that e-learning for the university. And I would say that in the Philippines, we have the best e-learning system so far because on the third year of our project, of our
mhm.
program, we were given an international award from Canada. So
Oh,
that's how massive and how, it
mhm,
was really a very rigid implementation of e-learning. So it was good, no? But at the same time, since the university saw my potential as a project manager, they gave me the position as project manager officer of the whole university. So I handled all projects. Yeah, oo, Rene. You can imagine I handled all projects, whether be it construction, renovation projects, no,
mhm.
and all major activities of the university passes through my office. So I handled also because we have UST in Santa Rosa and we have another one, UST General Santos. So I
Oh,
happened to
really?
handle, yeah, oo, even during
Wow.
that time. So I travel also and I check on our properties and try to plan for the new UST. So,
Mm,
and then um, after a few years, they gave me another position, and that's the position of the budget director of the university. So you can imagine what the work of a budget director is,
Yes.
diba? So
Mhm.
you're dealing, of course, with many,
Millions.
concerns, yeah,
Yeah, and
millions
millions
of
of
money. So
pesos.
every
Yeah.
day you have as many as, as thick as this of papers, and you have
Mm.
to sign the request. So that was my work. And then
Mhm.
after that, after a few years, they brought me back to the EdTech Center to be the director, and that
Mhm.
is in preparation for the quadricentennial celebration of the university. So
Mhm.
that was my work. So
Mhm.
and
But you
now
also studied in Korea. In between, you were also doing something in
yes,
Korea.
in between, yeah, you're right, Rene. So I did also a diploma course in e-learning from Korea, Busan University, no, Busan National University. And now I'm a visiting researcher also of the Busan National University. By the way,
Oh.
Rene. Oo.
Mhm.
So I still have that connection with Busan National University. But this diploma in e-learning actually came from APEC. It was funded by APEC.
Mm.
And I'm also still with APEC up to now, and I serve
Mm.
as the coordinator for educational activities here in the Philippines
Mm.
for APEC. So
So you are engaging with that because New Zealand is hosting APEC this year. It's virtual, I guess, online, right? So
right,
you must be having some conversations with your colleagues here in New
yeah.
Zealand.
But it's different now because everything is being done virtually.
Yes. Mm.
When it's not yet this, we don't have the pandemic yet. I got to travel a lot because of APEC, because of
Mm.
this e-learning, and I'm very thankful to Massey because it was in Massey that I was trained really, um,
Mm.
for APEC, they have sent me to Peru to attend the APEC in Peru, to attend the APEC in Vietnam, and so on and so forth. So I get to travel because of these connections as well. So
Mm.
I've been, doing a lot of many works, and now, as
Oh,
I have
okay.
mentioned to you,
Mhm.
I'm also doing some works for the Commission on Higher Education.
Oh, yes,
So
yes. Hmm.
for
So,
some of our listeners or viewers, maybe those who are not familiar with CHED, CHED
mhm.
is it's like the Ministry of Education, but since the education system of the Philippines is trifocal, so we have DepEd, we have TESDA, and we have CHED. CHED is the one in charge of the higher education.
Yes.
So since
Mm.
2015, um, I'm one of the consultants of CHED. So we write, we assist CHED in writing the policies or the CHED Memorandum Order. So in particular, I am into the transnational and distance education. So my experience in Massey
Mhm.
really paved the way,
Mhm.
for me to be exposed with this. Because if I did not have that experience in Massey and I did not do that research, I might not have the idea of what a transnational and distance education is. No, my
Yes.
idea might be very limited, but because of that research that I did, and I myself personally experienced how to be an international student, then I have the capability and I have the knowledge how to write good policies for transnational and distance education.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So when you say transnational, it's someone who goes to different countries, right? Beyond the border of one's homeland. Mhm.
Yes, you're right, Rene. Transnational education is actually a form of internationalization, no? So
Mhm.
transnational is whenever there is a degree that is involved. So
Mhm.
whenever a diploma is being, in the discussion, who is going to give the degree? But if it is
Oh.
something like, a short training and it's
Mhm.
part of the curriculum, no, it's not a transnational education. It is
Okay.
still internationalization. So
Mm.
it's a special type of internationalization, and it's
Mhm.
gaining really, focus now and discussion because transnational education, especially during this time of pandemic, and the system now is that many countries, the aging countries, are actually closing their schools. The case of UK, that's the reason why UK is really extending,
Mm,
offering courses, going
mhm,
to the different countries now and
mhm.
having satellite schools or
Yes,
setting up schools. That's transnational education.
yes. Oh, okay. So,
But that, yeah,
I've heard of the schools in Malaysia and Singapore. These are from UK universities with their branches. Even in the Middle East, the American big universities are also there. Are they
yes.
coming to the Philippines also? You think they're gonna set up uh,
We
a
have a lot
university?
actually in the Philippines now. We have a lot of these cases now, Rene, because
Oh,
they consider Philippines as a budget, as an English budget school or country.
mm-hmm.
Because all Filipinos can speak English.
Correct.
All
Yes.
Filipinos can converse in English.
Mhm.
And for foreign students also, they want to come to the Philippines because they can learn how to speak English without paying. Because in other countries, you have to pay before you can, study
Speak.
and be fluent in
Mm,
English, di ba? But in Philippines, no, you cannot because you deal with people who can really speak English. Even
that's
the vendors, no, or the balut, they can
yes.
speak English.
Hmm. The is it the reason why this TEDx and all of these online courses offered by Harvard, by Stanford, all of this is that like the sign of the times also. Even before the pandemic, they were starting to offer that online, and is that part of the what you call the transnational of transnationalization of education, Nina?
Um, Transnational is actually setting up or putting up your school or a center in that country. So it could
Oh,
be,
okay.
yeah. So when it's something that it's being offered online, it's considered
Mm-hmm.
distance education.
Oh, I see.
So there's a
Okay.
difference between the two. But now that we have this pandemic, you cannot really separate the two. That's our
Mm,
problem now. You cannot
that's correct.
separate the two.
That's correct. Yes. And when I was still teaching at Miriam College, and I was already hearing this, this noise, this news that the UST was going to set up a campus in Mindanao because I'm from Zamboanga. So they were saying, oh, it's going to be in UST Cotabato. So finally, it became General Santos, South Cotabato. And also, you have a campus also in Legazpi, right? The Aquinas
Yes.
University is now UST Legazpi.
Yes.
Such a big, and the other one is Santa
Angelic.
Rosa. Yes. Oh, wow.
And we have the Angelicum now, the one at Santo Domingo.
Oh,
Is also UST.
Angelico. Okay, I have some colleagues there, friends who used to teach. So Angelicum now is no longer a college. It's part of UST.
It's part of UST. It's called Angelicum, UST Angelicum.
UST Angelicum.
Yeah,
Okay.
UST
Uh,
Angelicum.
But going back to New Zealand media, when you went back home to the Philippines, you got involved with the New Zealand embassy. You became like a consultant of the New Zealand embassy, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
you're right,
mm,
Rene. So I did some consultancy work as educational research consultant. So it's like an extension of the research that I've done in
mhm,
New Zealand, yung masteral ko. So it's an
mhm,
extension. I don't want to say it's a replication, but it's an offshoot of my study
mhm,
because one thing, Rene, that we have to accept is that the monitoring system here in the Philippines is quite loose. We don't have a database of the scholars. So when I
mhm.
was doing my research, there's no record to look into.
Oh, really?
The government does not even know if the scholars really have, gone back or what.
Oh, so
If
that's
the
why.
scholars were able to finish the program or what. There's no
So,
monitoring, and that's part
so
of my study.
that's why people were able to not go home because there was no.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's what? it's like, an agreement between the embassy and the Philippine government and the
Mm-hmm.
Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the MFAT in New Zealand, that
Yes.
they have to put some policies now because these are the results of the study. So the study that we conducted now with New Zealand when I came back is more of the qualitative aspect. So it's like how was the services in New Zealand when you were
Mm-hmm.
there, the
Mm-hmm.
support system. Because one concern, Rene, is that not all scholars I were able to finish the program. Some,
Oh, okay.
some experiences depression. They have to go back,
Homesickness, homesick.
yes,
Mm.
homesickness and other things. So and this happens not only to the Filipinos but also to other nationalities. So it's
Mm.
really a study of how New Zealand can improve further their services, the program, and.
Mm.
It's actually the study is because New Zealand embassy that time is keen into looking into the possibility of having the program a hybrid program. So it's like, what if they get to partner with an HEI here in the Philippines, and that
Mhm.
HEI will handle the scholars, and New Zealand will fly in the professionals or the
Oh,
faculty members or the scholars from, it's like that
mhm,
idea. So if they will fly in the experts from New Zealand and the
mhm,
training will be done here, how it will be like. So that was the idea of the whole study then.
mhm, mhm. And apparently they did not take up that track because there's still scholars coming to New Zealand from the Philippines by
uh,
with this government. Yeah. Mhm.
yes, Rene. Economically, because my advisor was an econometrician,
Mhm.
he was not an educationalist. So it's not that good.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
that good. When we talk of economics, it's not that
Mhm.
good.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah.
when we do it in New Zealand,
Mhm.
we scholars also, we create the need for services. So we create jobs actually for New Zealanders
Correct. Mhm.
because we
Mhm.
need services. No, we
Mhm.
need services, so we need, so we create jobs for the country also as
Mhm.
scholars. We
Mhm.
spend the money there.
Yes. Mhm.
So, actually, if you will look at it, so it's a question of, is it really an aid? But for me, it is really an aid in the context of human capital development. It is still an aid. So
Mhm.
it depends now on the Philippines, how Philippines will maximize and make use of that aid.
That's
Because
correct.
what is happening is that when the scholar comes back in the Philippines, and the scenario, because most of the scholars, no, 90% of the scholars are from the government agencies.
Mhm.
What happens is that it's either the person who substituted them is now, entitled in that
Mhm.
position. You know how it
Mm.
is in the
Yes.
Philippines, right? He is now
Yeah, you've been
entitled in
away
that
for two
position.
years, three
Right.
years, so
So there's no more position for you to, go back to. So you
mm,
will end up floating
mm,
unless you're really, mabango in the management, so the management will give you a very good position, diba? So you might be in that position, difficult position, and when you go back, actually for 2 years you were taught how to use technology,
mm,
and you were used to work in a
yes,
different environment. When you go back, it will be very difficult for you again to adjust because it's
that's
totally different environment. You will
mm,
go back to using different technology. So
mm,
if you were trained to use the technology in New Zealand, the tendency is you buy the technology of New Zealand. Also,
yes,
you will not be happy if the government will not be able to provide you what you need, because
correct.
you will, it will be something like you will say to the government that you asked me to go and study and now you
Mm,
cannot provide. So how can we, improve? If you're
mm,
expecting me to help the government improve, how can we improve if you are not
mm,
supporting me? So those ideas, so
mm.
the tendency of the scholar is, to go out again.
Oh, okay. After serving the
That's why,
time, mm,
yeah.
mm,
Not some nga some are not even serving the time na eh. They go
mm.
out na.
Oh, okay.
Kasi sa government, there is no payback, there is no payback scheme. in the
Mm.
government.
And it's your professional growth. You want to grow professionally. It's not just, so, and your eyes have been open to new possibilities, new ways of doing things. And of course, human nature will you try to find a way for you to grow. I'll ask you,
Yeah.
Nina, have you been around the country, New Zealand, or was it just in Palmerston North? Did you, of course, you went to Wellington, it's very near. So
Yeah.
you,
Wellington,
mhm.
Rotorua.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been to South
Oh, Queenstown, Christchurch, those places. Hmm?
Christchurch. Been to
Mm,
Christchurch.
okay,
Yeah.
that's good. That's
So
good. And Auckland, of course, because this is
yes, of course, Auckland.
the
Yeah, but
Auckland
I
that.
would love to go back.
Yeah, of course. That once the borders are open and because there's still a lot of possibilities with your research and the things that the linkages that you're doing now and with your position with the University of Santo Tomas. I think it's and with Ched and it's just a matter of time that we're gonna see you back here. Did you make like some? Of course, I was telling you earlier that there weren't heaps of Filipinos here, but were you able to make some long-lasting friends with Filipino Kiwis who are,
Yes,
you know? Mm-hmm.
yes, Rene. Yeah. Our ninong sa kasal
Mm.
is from New Zealand, si Manong Angel Carambas. I'm not sure if you know Manong
Oh,
Angel
okay.
Carambas.
Is he from Palmerston? Is he from
Yeah, he's
Palmy?
from Palmerston.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and well, our the other ninong wala na siya. He's a Kiwi, so he
Mm-hmm.
died.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we have group of Filipinos that we are still in contact with. But some of them actually transferred to Australia na.
Australia, yes,
Yes.
mostly go to Australia.
Yeah.
So you
But
got married here in New Zealand? You got married in New
no,
Zealand? Ah, okay.
here in Manila, but I met my husband there in New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe you can also invite him to be one of your
Of
guests next
course,
time.
yes. I mean,
Um,
yes. Was he also
Ak-
a scholar?
yes, yes, yeah.
Oh,
Ahmad is from Mindanao.
oh yeah.
My
That
husband,
would
yeah,
be
he is from
okay.
Mindanao, from Marawi, but
Mm.
he works for the Department of Agrarian Reform.
Oh, the DAR,
Yes,
but based in
Quezon
Manila,
City. Yes,
Quezon
based
City.
in Manila.
Oh,
He's a
okay.
PARO, a Provincial Agrarian Reform Officer, but he's based
Oh,
in Manila and he's the Assistant Director of the um, Beneficiaries Office of
oh.
the DAR. Yeah.
Link me with
So,
him, Nina. I'd like to.
yes,
So did he study at Massey also?
yes, yes. We were together the same time kasi kami. And
Ah, okay.
siguro nabully kami, no? Because during that time, kami yung single lang dun sa group. And I'm the youngest. I was only
Oh,
24 eh. I was only
oh.
24 when I came to Massey. So, nabully yata kami.
Studying, I mean, New Zealand wasn't just a place for research and studying. It was also the venue for your love story. Oh, wow.
Ganun ba yun? Not really sure.
You when you went back. That's the time that you got married. So the Kiwi Ninong, he went to the Philippines. Did he go to
No,
the?
no, you did not.
You
It's
just.
actually our Filipino, sila Manong Angel and Manang
Mm,
Mirna.
mm,
They
mm.
really came home for our wedding. And
Oh, very good.
we're so thankful sa kanila.
I hope I'll get to interview your husband also. And well, my one of my former students in high school is the head of security of DAR. I think he's with the department secretary, so he's the chief of that group there.
But Ahmad is currently on travel now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he's coming back tonight. So I will
Ah,
mention to him, oo.
yes, 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 please. So that even if it's not yeah, not as soon, but yeah, it would be
You know,
really.
Rene, New Zealand Embassy is asking me if I am not interested in going back to New Zealand and staying there in New Zealand.
Mm,
You know, I will be very honest, no? It's really nice if we can stay in New Zealand. And I would
Mm,
really love to go back. I'm
mhm,
trying to convince my children. We have three children. No? I'm
mhm.
trying to convince them that, you have to go to New Zealand. And when you're there, don't forget to get us. Me and your papa. Don't forget to get us. Um, well, maybe because my husband is really that he has that idea of he has to serve the country, and that's the reason
Mm,
why we did not leave really Philippines, because many are telling me with your connections you can easily go and settle in other countries, but it's not
yes,
like that. We really love Philippines and we would like to help Philippines grow.
yes,
So maybe that's the
definitely.
reason why, because after handling some administrative positions in the university, I opted to be a faculty member because, one nun mentioned to me, she's like my second mother, and she said, Nina, it's about time that you spread your wings outside. You help the Philippines, not only UST. So it took
Mhm.
me quite some time. So while I was, in the process of telling myself that it's about time for me to go out and really do something else, I also worked as consultant for a big publishing company. And
Mm.
I was the first one who introduced the e-textbook in the Philippines.
Ah, nice.
I'm really a
Mm,
teacher, I'm
mm,
thinking of technology, how we can use
mhm,
technology towards education, towards development. So that's the idea.
mhm,
So I brought the idea of bringing in e-textbooks in the Philippines.
mhm.
So it was a very good experience, Rene. So
So
I was part of
it's an
that.
ongoing. It's an ongoing now. The e-textbooks, or yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Rene, I think I don't want to say that, but it's always like I entrust everything to God. Wherever
Okay.
He wants me to do
Mm-hmm.
or to So if you will ask me why not finish my PhD, it depends on Him. Maybe it will come in the right time,
Yes,
because
in this time.
I introduced e-learning in the Philippines, and that's also the time that Ched asked me to join them as one of the consultants.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm doing many works actually for Ched. So I do technical work as well for them in terms of project evaluation. So many projects now for the different schools, and if it's a project that it involves the outcome with benefit majority or nationwide, they often they have to ask me of the
Mm-hmm.
project, what I think about the project. And I'm one of the key persons when it comes to LMS, if you are familiar with LMS or the learning management system.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the key persons who do the consultancy work for CHED. So I'm one of those who evaluates the the LMSs of the different HEIs. Actually, there are only two of us. One is from Mapua and me.
Oh,
So dalawa lang kami, and we do that for all the schools na applying
okay.
for whatever from
Mm-hmm.
CHED. Yeah. So I do a lot, but at the same time, I also have Dep Ed, and I have APEC, and from time to time, I have some work for UNESCO also.
Okay, yeah. So all of these things are really contributing to enriching your professional life. But I agree with the sister that it's time for you to spread
Um,
your wings also.
I also do some work for Mindanao.
Mm,
Yeah, and currently we are setting up the Mamanwa Institute. It's
mm-hmm.
like a research center for Mamanwa in Mindanao. So we're setting that up, and I'm one of the key people working on that. Yeah, so if you are
Okay.
familiar with Mamanwa are considered as the first Filipinos. They say that
Mm.
it's not the Negritos, but it's the Mamanwa.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think that would be a very good next time we're gonna. I want to talk about that one because I'm very passionate about the land of promise of which is Mindanao.
Oh,
uh,
that would be
right.
very good, Rene. And I would like to invite you also. Siguro off the record
Yeah.
later, or we
Yes.
can
Yeah.
have exchanges of, and maybe you can also help us promote, no,
Of
and
course. Of
populate
course.
also, because we have international consultants as well helping us in
Of
this
course.
manual. Yeah,
Of course.
it's
And
very
who is the?
interesting, no?
Yes, it is. It is. I don't know much about it, but I've heard about it, and that's why it's interesting to me. Who is the chair of the CHED now? Is it uh,
Prospero, it's Chairman Prospero de Vera.
yes, okay. He was well. I was when I was taking my doctorate at the NCPAG. He was one of the. I wasn't in his class, but he was one of the professors there. So that's why, yeah, I said it's someone from NCPAG who is. And the previous one was Dr. Liquanan, who was the
Yeah.
president of Miriam College when I was teaching. So she became the chair. Yeah, and Nina, my friend who finished environmental management in the Waikato, I
Mhm.
think she went here on because she was with Ched. I don't know if she's still with Ched. Her name is May Ann Peña Florida. So I don't know if she's still with Ched, but yeah, she came here. She was with Ched and she did a master's, and I think she's doing her doctorate in Miriam College because we have a PhD in environmental education or something like that. So yes. Nina, thank you very much for and I'm really looking forward to with the next engagement with you and with your husband, and even looking forward to see you here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Have a cup of coffee, and your children, they are already professionals. Is that what you're saying? You let them go, let them fly, and then
No, not yet, Rene. The
oh, not
eldest
yet.
is 21, who is
Ah,
on his third year college now at the University of Santo Tomas as well. The
mm,
second one is in his senior grade 12, and
oh,
the youngest is grade 11. I'm a late
okay.
bloomer, Rene. I'm a late bloomer.
If yeah, on a personal note, I will tell you that I'm a very late bloomer. I got married at 35, and my
I
wife
uh-huh.
is from UST. She from
Really?
grade school to com arts. She's a true real Tomasian,
A
So,
true blood Tumashan. Wow. Please send my regards to her.
of course, and also before we end, I'd like to also acknowledge that you were one of the mentors of one of my guests the other night, Dr. Donald Manlapas. He was under your wing when you came back and doing the e-learning and all of those things. Nina. It's it's amazing. The UST produces it really is like the big universities are all doing well in the Philippines, but UST is the oldest university in Asia, and it's still going strong. And when you did the quadricentennial, was it the
Yes,
400
the
years?
quadri.
So the people from UST, I mean the Filipino Kiwis were from UST here, so they had like a group. They're from the engineering because my wife, all the other brothers and sisters all came from UST. So most of
Oh,
all of them are here already. Plus, I have friends who are from the College of Engineering. So and I really like that wonderful song that was created for the quadricentennial, and it was beautifully written and beautifully sung by the UST chorale. And
yes.
yeah, and I used to play that on my radio show also. So a lot of I have good vibes with UST because I always say,
Thank you.
well, my ex girlfriend is from UST, who is also my wife now. Nina, maraming salamat, as we say in our language, and I wish you all the best. What would be your message to people who are doing their research, especially nowadays? It's the pandemic, whether they're doing research in the Philippines, they're studying the Philippines, or they're studying overseas.
Um, Research is a never ending work. and research is always unique. I would say that if you are a researcher, you will never get old, and you will always be, in demand, and you will always be in time. People will come to you always if you are doing research. Research really is something that I would say, I'm so happy, and that I'm doing research. Um, you know, Maybe I'm with Ched, I'm with DepEd. I'm with DepEd now, and they're doing a big research for DepEd. And this is in preparation for the drafting of the internationalization policy for the whole basic education for the Philippines. That's research, and that's my life. So, siguro, Rene, no, what I can share with you that I forgot to mention is that I teach very few subjects in the university because most of my load is converted into research. And
Mm.
yeah, oo. So we produce something like 30 researches in a semester with our
Wow.
students. So that is
Ooh.
how, yeah. So maybe at my age now, and I was counting, I have produced about maybe 500, 600 researches together with my
Ooh.
students. But
Wow.
of
That's a
course,
lot.
we did not publish that, not at
Mhm.
all, because during the early days naman, publishing is not a requirement, di ba?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but we have them there, no? But it's only now that we are required to really publish our researches. But yeah, if there is anyone who would like to, be into research related to technology, flexible learning, modality, whether you
Mhm.
are a foreigner or you are in the Philippines, I am here. You can always contact me. I am very eager to partner with you and do research with you.
Very good.
Always welcome, yeah, because we need really to partner with others as well, no?
Correct.
Because I mean, what we know is something that we need to share, and we need also to learn from others. So if there is anyone there who would like to do research with me, please,
Of
please,
course.
you are very much welcome, and please, if we can do research together, that would
Very
be
good.
very great, no?
Oh,
Would
very
love
good.
to
Excellent.
partner with you.
Excellent. Mabuhay ka, Nina, for doing everything. Thank you very much for coming to phdchannel.com. And I'd like to thank also our listeners and our viewers. And tune in again next time for another wonderful experience with our guests here on phdchannel.com. I'm your Kuya Rene. Maraming salamat and thank you and God bless.